Now, our regular parenting expert joins us this morning to share some knowledge and advice on how failure can be used to develop your child's growth in the future.
Real lasting success is oftentimes built on failure. Parents need to allow their children to make mistakes and fail in order to learn and to grow. We chat to our creative parenting expert and co-author of Future Proof Your Child, Nikki Bush, about this concept. Nikki, you are just working, girl, books and everything. So good to have you on the show again.
Thank you.
So it's almost counterintuitive for a parent to allow their children to fail, because I think they're instinctively wired to help their child to succeed. But what kind of failure are we talking about here? Are you letting them fail a year at school, or is it something completely different?
Something completely different, Leanne.
Okay.
Obviously, you know, failure of a year at school is a very, very, very big thing. And we would only keep our children back if we really had to. But what we're talking about here is about little failures that lead to success. If you talk to successful people, entrepreneurs, etc., you will find that they have failed many, many times in their lives. And big success is often premised on lots of little failures and mistakes, because you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
And if you just look back in history, Thomas Edison, how many times did he fail before we had the light bulb?
Albert Einstein.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, you know, all of those really clever people tried and failed and tried and failed. And in fact, if you look at the world of work right now, a lot of the thinking and the training that is being given to CEOs and leaders in organizations is to set up innovation hubs in companies, because innovation is the lifeblood of companies, and to innovate, one must experiment and fail.
So what you're saying is failure is actually very important in order to teach your child how the world works.
Exactly, because this is how they interact with the world, and this is how they learn from their mistakes. So you don't fail unless you don't learn from what you did wrong, and then you need to go back and try again. So what are children learning? They're learning to persevere. They're learning resilience. They're learning to push on and push through, to find that breakthrough. And that may mean doing something 2 or 3 times over, or 100 times over. And I have had that opportunity with one of my own sons, actually, in the National Science Expo. He and a friend put together something called piecrete, which is where you mix sawdust and water and you freeze it into ice blocks, and it apparently is unbreakable. That is, if you do it properly.
Yeah.
So they made these beautiful ice blocks, and then they took them to a shooting range, shot them, you know, with a gun under supervision, and these things just exploded, didn't work, failed completely. Why? Because they didn't have machinery to keep the sawdust agitated during the freezing process. Like with ice cream, you have to keep churning.
Yes.
Same thing. And because it wasn't churned, these things were not strong at all. And then they had to hand in this experiment which had failed dismally. And they didn't know what to do. And I said, well, you've got to evaluate what you did wrong. And I helped them evaluate and learn the lessons and present the fact that it failed.
What?
And they got through, based on the fact that they could explain what they had learned from their mistakes.
Yeah. That is fantastic. That is amazing. But you know what? This is the first time that someone has spoken about failure as not as a taboo topic, not as something you want to stay away from, but something you should actually embrace, because it's going to help you grow in this life. How can parents communicate positive messages to their children when it comes to failure, like you did?
Okay, so take a small child who's going to knock something over, spill things, break things, because this is part of learning how the world works. If we're on their case and we're saying, you bad boy, you naughty girl, they're going to learn to fear failure. If we go, whoops, oh dear, quickly go and get the cloth from the kitchen, come, let's mop it up together, and we teach them how, then next time they are not scared, and they will also learn how to mop it up for themselves. And once again, it's the words that we use. So even with older children, like with my son in that instance, I could have gone in and rescued them. I could have helped them do it all over again and maybe got it right. But actually, you can't always do that. And so you need for them to know that it's okay. If it's not life-threatening, it's okay. You know, the only people who need to get things really right are condom makers and folders of parachutes.
Oh, Nikki, I'm so loving this conversation. Stay right here, because we need to talk about this a little bit more. Well, if you're enjoying our conversation about failure and how it can actually benefit your child's growth, don't go anywhere, because Nikki will be right back.